Absolutely. And Michael, that's the prosecution's goal, what Lauren just said. You sum it up. You crystallize for the jury what's been talked about, expert after expert. This is potentially what it may have looked like.
Yes, but I don't think that that's going to be what this video is about. I think this video is going to be more instructional in nature to be able to help the jurors to visualize what the standards of care are and what a reasonably prudent physician would have done in similar circumstances. Now, it is going to be the job of the prosecution as it wraps up its case to be able to tell the story and put the pieces together, but this video is something completely different.
Okay, guys, let's take a quick break. Again, big-time news here. Bombshell development as we're waiting on a video, and it sounds like the prosecution is editing a few irrelevant elements out of it, some of the more graphic things. But what the jury is about to see is a reenactment of what it may have looked like, or what it could look like if someone had cardiac or respiratory arrest while on the sedative propofol. What should have been done? That's what the prosecution would like to title this video from the start. When someone is sedated, they meet the anesthesiologist, they sign a consent form all the way out. We're going to take a quick break. Much more on the Michael Jackson death trial coming up. Keep it right here. To do, make it about Michael Jackson, right?
Well, Lauren just described the elements of involuntary manslaughter. She said that
Absolutely not.
Well, if it's an inherently dangerous activity and the physician doesn't take adequate care, and we know that the probable result of leaving someone in the room who's a drug seeker with medications is overdose, then you've met the elements of manslaughter right there.
Okay, with that, let's take a quick break. Much more coming up. And Alan Duke saw the video that's going to be edited. Alan's going to give us his take on that. Let us know what we're about to see. It's coming up.
Operating room where
of criminality, and only the jury can decide that. The defense has got to go with that because there's really nowhere else to go except causation and trying to rehabilitate Dr. Murray.
Okay, and to Lauren's point, again, the defense will not take over. They'll begin presenting their case on Friday. And Lauren and Michael have been doing a very good job here, giving us both sides as to where this trial should go. So, Michael, let me give you your opportunity here to rebut what Lauren has just had to say about the video and where the defense could go here.
Well, thanks for that, Mike. I have to say that, Lauren, I think you're describing the elements of second-degree murder, which, of course, involves conscious disregard for human life. And I think that the prosecutors were smart.
No.
I know some MJ fans disagree with me, but I think they were smart not to bring that because they are going to be successful at portraying Conrad Murray as a nice guy. Now, they've never said anything about him being a bad dad or a bad person. They've said he's a bad doctor. Right, but the defense attorneys are going to try to portray him as a nice guy.
But Michael, negligence is different from criminal negligence, isn't it? I mean, a breach of a duty of care is one thing, but rising to the level of criminality is what the jury has to decide. Am I correct?
No, well, the criminality can be satisfied by if you have a greater standard. If the standard is higher, so you're a doctor in a dangerous situation, inherently dangerous, and there's not due caution, you have criminal negligence right there.
Lauren?
Well, I think that also, but I think that, look, this is what I call our Grey's Anatomy syndrome. As we have the CSI syndrome, we also have a Grey's Anatomy syndrome. I think our country watches a lot of hospital drama. And I think if we think that all things play out under standard controlled conditions and everything goes exactly the way it's supposed to go in an emergency room and outside of emergency room, we're fooling ourselves. Do doctors make errors? Yes. But I think it's important for us to understand that just negligence, doing doing the wrong thing does not always amount to criminality. Now, Michael, of course, you believe it does because you are on the prosecution side of the case. But
no,
if
I'm
we
objective.
all believe
I'm looking at the facts and the law. I'm looking at the facts and the law.
I'm saying you're agreeing with the prosecution, but what I'm saying from a defense perspective, which is I'm here to give, and that's fine, and I'm saying based on the facts as well, is that the defense has an opportunity to present a case that you haven't heard. Casey Anthony's case, we had testimony that there was a dead body smell in the car. In OJ, there was the glove. At this very point in both of those trials, everybody was on the side of the prosecution as well, and we see what happens. It is my job as a defense attorney to say that although we've heard this one side, at the end of the day, the jury is the true finder of fact. And we may all think that this doctor is criminally negligent, but from what they heard in the courtroom and their own analysis of the facts, they may not find it to be true because there are issues with the causation in this case, and nobody can truly say what happened in that room that day. And that's a problem.
But the jury instruction is going to be key because you and I disagree on what the jury instruction needs to be. You think we're talking about standard negligence. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is that the standard here for a conviction in involuntary manslaughter is that there's a higher duty than just standard duty. There's a higher duty, one of a physician, and he's undertaking an inherently dangerous activity. And we know that in that activity, the reasonable, probable result of, in this case, bringing these medications into the room is overdose. If overdose occurs, you've got causation and all the elements are satisfied. So you've got involuntary manslaughter.
Okay, guys, let me dive in here.
Well,
excellent back and forth. Real clock's ticking. Let me clarify something. And Mike, I'll give you first crack at this as we try and clarify this for me and all of our viewers out there. So Dr. Murray, number one, should not have been doing this at home, right?
Yes.
So he didn't monitor. He left the room for 2 minutes or however long. Michael Jackson ends up dead. Some people say, okay, on that alone, you're in over your head, you were negligent, he ends up dead. Is that criminal at that point? Is that criminal negligence or not?
Two experts have already said yes, because they said that Dr. Murray would be responsible for the death of Michael Jackson even if he's self-administered, right? And so, again, it is criminal because you're dealing with an inherently dangerous activity, and he had a greater duty than just a regular person. He was his physician earning $150K a month.
Got it. Okay, guys, let's take a quick break. Again, good back and forth. Alan, your perspective great as well, having seen the video that sounds like we're about to see as well, and should be powerful for this jury. Activity in the courtroom. We're going to get you back to Los Angeles in a moment. HLN, the place to be for the latest developments. Concerning how propofol should be administered, how it should be monitored, and what should happen in case of emergency. Sounds like it will be powerful. Our own Alan Duke, CNN producer, has seen this video. Alan, when you saw it, and you've done a great job describing what we're about to see, did you think to yourself, wow, this is going to be very powerful for the jury to see and clear up a lot of things for them?
Yes, it's a how-to of how it's done, almost like a training video in a very basic sense. However, then it takes a dramatic turn. You even see a slow-motion visual effect apparent, and and you see the patient in aspiration with the blocked airways, and then with cardiac arrest, and in each case, how they would react to that. But yes, it is, as defense attorney Chernoff said, designed to inflame the jurors' minds, as Walgreen, the district attorney, would say, designed to inform them. So there's the difference.
Hey, Alan, is there any sound? In other words, do you see anybody calling 911?
No.
Because we've heard that a lot in this case.
There are subtitles that say call for help or emergency, things like that. But no, there's no sound. Dr. Schaefer will narrate.
Okay, gotcha. Michael Barnes, because that's big, right? And if you can insinuate, once again, somebody should have called 911, especially if you don't have the equipment on hand, obviously another big point for the prosecution here.
That is a big point that we've had to deal with in the facts and the cross-examination of these experts. The real issue is whether or not Conrad Murray should have said, call 911 versus calling for help, go get help from security. So I do think this video could be helpful for that. Another thing, if there is audio to the video, is whether or not they're using the term sleep. One of the bones I have to pick with the prosecution here is that they constantly use the term sleep when they're meaning to say anesthesia or anesthesia-induced coma or unconscious. And I hope that after having heard these experts, they'll change their approach to their use of vocabulary. But this video should also be helpful for that.
Hey, Lauren Lake, how important is that? Just picking up on a simple term like that, using the term sleep, or even, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, I wanted to get your take on it. Stephen Schaefer mentioned, you know, he's not charging for his services in this case because he used the terminology medical malpractice and medical misadventure. I got to think the defense likes that terminology because he's not saying manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter.